Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus came out many years ago, and we're going to go ahead and compare them in 2022. Now, I would probably these are the lowest iPhones I'd recommend this year. That's pretty much the main reason I'm talking about them. But the biggest thing is which one should you pick up? Now, if you have the money, I'd go for the 7 Plus, but the iPhone 7, for it being a smaller phone, there's also some smaller things about this iPhone that you may want to pick up. I don't know. Links will be down in the description if you want to pick up some iPhones I'd recommend this year. You can get them from there, help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, the iPhone 7 Plus is the bigger phone here. You have a smaller 4.7-inch panel on the iPhone 7. You have the Touch ID sensor, which is same on both, front-facing camera. Overall, still a pretty decent display. It just has a bunch of bezel around it, which does make it look a little bit outdated, but it's pretty much the same setup on the iPhone 7 Plus as well. You have the same type of bezel, obviously a lot more bezel looks like on the 7 Plus. You also have a bigger 5.5-inch panel on the iPhone 7 Plus as well. And I do think this panel is better. I mean, it's a higher resolution 1080p versus I think like the 750p on this panel. It's overall still pretty good. Like I said, I don't have too many complaints about it, but you are getting an overall better looking panel on the iPhone 7 Plus. So definitely keep that in mind. But in terms of the outside, that kind of covers it up, at least on the front. Now, in terms of thinness and thickness between them, it's a little hard to tell, but the iPhone 7 Plus, I think they both have the same thickness, but you can just see how big of a phone the iPhone 7 Plus is. I mean, it pretty much sits, like the iPhone 7 can comfortably sit inside of the whole entire phone of the 7 Plus with room to spare. And with, I mean, the thinness, it's kind of the same thinness it seems like, but the iPhone 7 Plus is a bigger phone, so keep that in mind. Lightning ports at the bottom. On the back, dual camera setup on the iPhone 7 Plus, single camera setup on the iPhone 7. And overall, I don't really have too many complaints about the build quality. They both pretty much feel like the same thing. They're both aluminum back. They don't feel cheap at all. But you do have that dual camera setup on the 7 Plus, which is really cool, where the iPhone 7 has that single camera setup. No wireless charging, but you do have IP certification on both, which is really cool. So I don't really have too many complaints about this specific phone in that standpoint. Now, there is a little bit of difference, I think, in terms of the RAM and everything, which we'll get into in a second. But other than that, that's really pretty much the main differences. You're getting better, battery life on the 7 Plus because it has a much bigger size battery. And the battery life was never amazing on the 7, but it was better than I think some people expected. It's better than the 6S. But in terms of the outside, that covers it. Now, in terms of longevity, you're pretty much getting the same type of experience on both of them as well. The same type of software updates are going to be had on both, so one iPhone is not going to outlast the other one. So that is a really big thing to keep in mind. When you're getting an iPhone 7 or you're getting an iPhone 7 Plus, you are getting the same exact type of experience when it comes down to software. Same features, same everything. Really the main other features I can even kind of remotely think of that aren't the same on both maybe are things like the battery life. You're obviously getting a bigger size battery, but also with the camera features. Because the iPhone 7 Plus has that dual camera setup, you're getting some extra camera features. But other than that, pretty much the same exact thing in terms of software. So in terms of that covers it up there. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these iPhones. Now both of them have the same Apple A10 Fusion chip inside of it, but the iPhone 7 Plus has 3 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 7 has 2 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and kind of compare them and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps should be cleared out in the background. If I click here, if I go and click here, I accidentally inverted there. Okay, there we go, back to normal. So let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And pretty much the same thing, not a difference. Music, 3, 2, 1. And looks like, the 7 was faster, but we did have a little bit of a thing here. We were on different panels. So let's go and hop out of here. Let's go and get into their app stores, 3, 2, 1. And it looks like the iPhone 7 was actually a little bit faster though, which is very interesting. Scrolling through, let's see if there's one that's faster or smooth than the other one. And it doesn't really look like it. They both gave me the same impression. They're both on the same version of software as well, which is really cool. Photos, 3, 2, 1. 7 Plus looked a little bit faster there. Mail, let's go and do that one. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing. Hopping out of this one, let's get into their cameras. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing too, not a big difference. Let's get into Apple TV. 3, 2, 1. And it looks like the iPhone 7 was faster there. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into iTunes Store. 3, 2, 1. And this one was kind of tough because this one did load into a different panel, but we'll kind of skip that one. Now let's open up some of these third-party applications that we have on both. Let's get into Facebook. 3, 2, 1. And was logged in here, not a big difference. Twitter, 3, 2, 1, and I accidentally clicked it there by accident. So we'll just load it up in the background for RAM management. Hopping out of this one, let's get into Netflix, 3, 2, 1. Definitely the iPhone 7 Plus was much faster there. Hopping out of this one, let's get into Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. 7 Plus was faster there. Hopping out of this one, Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. 7 Plus was faster there. Hopping out of this one, let's do Bofa, 3, 2, 1. This one's taking a little bit of time, which is okay. 7 Plus was faster there. iPhone 7 a little bit behind. Let's go and do Thank You, 3, 2, 1. And iPhone 7 a little bit faster there, which is very interesting. Hopping out of that, let's go and get into Snape First Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And pretty much the same thing here too, so there really wasn't that big of a difference here. So I'll definitely tell you when it comes down to both these applications, a lot of flip-flopping. There really isn't one that's the consistent winner, which is totally making sense because both of them have the same exact chipset inside. So if you're trying to get the better performing one, the 7 Plus has more RAM, so this one's going to be the better one. But the iPhone 7 is literally almost just as fast as this iPhone, so definitely keep that in mind. So let's go and hop out of there. Let's go and get into the cameras. So now in the back, we do have a dual camera setup on the 7 Plus, a 12 megapixel wide and then a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, where the iPhone 7 has a single 12 megapixel wide angle lens. Now they both have cameras in the front too. They can only shoot 4K at 30 on the back, and I think only 1080p on the front, which is okay for the most part. With something like the iPhone 7's camera, I mean, it's really not, shocking anybody anymore. It's a good camera for the most part. It has a lot of capability, but it's pretty much already outdated. It's a single lens, and I don't think you're really going to be impressing anybody. Now, unless you know how to like edit your photos and edit, videos and stuff like that, then maybe you can get a little bit of a better quality, photo and video from this camera. But if you just want to get, the most amount of features, this really isn't the phone. The 7 Plus really isn't the phone either for that. The thing is that this one has a single camera, so there's really not a whole lot, going for it. Also, the front camera really isn't that great anymore either. You don't have portrait mode, no night mode, no cinematic mode, no extra ultra wide or telephoto lenses, so you're pretty much already on an outdated camera, to be honest. And with something like the iPhone 7 Plus, it is pretty much in the same exact suit, and that's kind of the issue. But I will tell you, the 7 Plus does have a little bit more quality because you do have this portrait mode, which is really nice. You do have portrait mode itself is really cool, but you do have the telephoto lens, which allows you to zoom in a lot, and I definitely do like that. The 7 Plus camera is the better one for sure, and that's why I think the 7 Plus is probably the lowest one I would recommend. Even the iPhone 7 I don't think is that great when compared to something like the iPhone 7 Plus. So when it comes down to the camera setup, the iPhone 7 Plus is definitely the winner here. Maybe the iPhone 7 was a close runner-up, but the 7 Plus is definitely the one I would recommend. And to be honest, that's kind of how I would recommend this whole entire comparison. I would highly recommend picking up the 7 Plus over the iPhone 7 if it came down to these two. I have been recommending both of these iPhones depending on the budget, depending on the size. Some people don't like this like massive sized phone, but the iPhone 7 is probably not the first iPhone I'd recommend to you. It's the lowest one. I would not recommend buying an iPhone that's less than this, but with something like the 7 Plus, you're still getting pretty much the same type of experience on the 7, but better. It's a cheaper phone and smaller, but I would recommend going to something like an iPhone 8 at that point. But even then, it's not worth it. I would go to something like an iPhone 10 if you can, if you want a smaller size with a lot of power. The 7 Plus, I think, is a good middle ground because you have better battery life than the 7. You have better cameras than the 7. Performance is the same, but you have pretty much the same, but you have more RAM on the 7 Plus, which is really good. So in terms of that covers it up there. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.